So we're in the chapter entitled The New Beginning, and today we'll be reading Beyond All Idols from section 3. I want to recall for you something that we read at the end of chapter 29, which also had a lot to say about idols. In that chapter, we read that every living thing is a part of you, that no idol can establish you as more than God, but you will never be content with being less. So apparently the ego would attempt you to use idols to establish you as something more valuable, more interesting than God. And of course, that can't happen. But you will never be content or happy with being anything less. So with that, we'll begin our reading today. And thank you, David, for your help with reading.
Idols are quite specific, but your will is universal, being limitless. And so it has no form, nor is content for its expression in the terms of form. Idols are limits. They are the belief that there are forms that will bring happiness, and that by limiting is all attained. It is if you said, I have no need of everything. This little thing I want, and it will be as everything to me. And this must fail to satisfy, because it is your will that everything be yours. Decide for idols, and you ask for loss. Decide for truth, and everything is yours.
So let's frame this beginning paragraph. On one side of the equation is the universal oneness with infinity. The creator and all creation are united with one. It's infinite, and it contains everything that is valuable and real. And then on the other side, the ego proposes that you accept some little idol instead and try to content yourself with the little offering of the idol. So, and those idols take specific forms. They take specific forms, of which there are many. So we're not narrow ourselves to what is the form about, but what is its function. A function is idol, is to be an idol. That specific form is very different from your holy will. And I think this idea is a bit abstract for sure. Your will is universe. The will that God has for all creation is your will. You share in it. They are not different in any way. And therefore, it is universal and limitless, and your will has no form, nor does your will express itself in terms of material forms. This is abstract. Picture it this way. In heaven, there are no forms, and your holy will encompasses a union with all things, but it doesn't narrow itself to being expressed in some one specific form, but rather it's abstract and broad, unconditional, universal, all-encompassing, as you would expect the Creator's will to be, all-encompassing. So if that doesn't register, I understand but just know that idols are just the opposite of that. Very specific, very narrow, very particular forms. These are little things that we want. And they would seem, when we're caught up in the ego, to mean everything to you. So maybe the form is to get rich quick. To some people, that might seem like everything. But yet, when it happens, it fails to satisfy because it is your will that everything be yours. Therefore, any choice, mistake of wanting idols is to ask for less, to ask for loss, and to surrender your identity with truth and with everything in return for some meager offering. Heidi?
So are my children idols?
Well, that depends on you. And how, so the question is, can we make people into idols? Yes, we can. That doesn't mean that that's what they truly are, but we can so regard them. People certainly have regarded their partners, somebody might have a love interest or a romantic interest to which they make into an idol. That's making a person into an idol. Special relationships are idols. So Heidi, I'm not trying to make a judgment on what you do with your children because I don't know that. But can people make their children into idols? Yes. The goal here of the Holy Spirit is that your relationship would be holy with your children. You'd have a holy relationship. You'd see them as a spiritual being equal to yourself and a member of the sonship, and you'd recognize that they have a part to play in all creation. You'd regard them through holy eyes.
Perfect.
And yeah, and so most of us don't start out there. That's not our starting point. And so this is a learning journey. The Holy Spirit already sees them as holy children of God. And the more we join with the Holy Spirit, the more we adopt her perception. And then we see it the same as the Holy Spirit does.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. All right, we'll go on. David?
Can I read something first?
Of course. Yeah. What you got?
I thought that we're skipping section 2.
Yeah.
Freedom of will.
Mhm.
But I found a couple of sentences in here very integral for me moving forward. So I just wanted to read them.
Sure.
And see if so it starts out, do you not understand that to oppose the Holy Spirit is to fight yourself? He tells you but your will. He speaks for you. God asks you do your will. He joins with you. How wonderful it is to do your will, for that is freedom. Unless you do your will, you are not free.
Yes.
I thought that was pretty important for me to go forward to this next section.
Yeah, it is. And I just wanted to clarify, we're not skipping section 2. You guys are reading that on your own. So we're not.
No, I understand that, but
yeah, so everyone's reading it just on your own. And yes, that it is important. It underscores, that was put there for a reason. Yeah.
It is not form you seek. What form can be a substitute for God, the Father's love? What form can take the place of all the love and the divinity of God the Son? What idol can make two of what is one? And can the limitless be limited? You do not want an idol. It is not your will to have one. It will not bestow on you the gift you seek. When you decide upon the form of what you want, you lose the understanding of its purpose. So you see your will within the idol, thus reducing it to a specific form. Yet this could never be your will, because what shares in all creation cannot be content with small ideas and little things.
Actually, that delves perfectly, David, with what you read. That last line about your freedom, could you read it again?
Unless you do your will, you are not free. Is that which
Okay.
one you're talking about?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So imagine if you do not do your will and you try to see your will within an idol. You are in prison mistakenly, not consciously. These things are done not because we're not awake, but we put our willpower into some earthly specific idol form, and thus we imprison our will. We are not free. And so we would call that a mistake. And so we're highlighting that this mistake is made by reducing our will to something very narrow and tangible and specific, some earthly form. And that is something everyone has done. As we talked about it before, if we were to have a party and come there and share all of our idols, someone said it would have to be an overnight party because it would go on and on and on and on. We've done this so much. So that, and have a good laugh at it. So we're talking now about the error of placing your will into an idol and thereby imprisoning it. The Course says what this is about is to free our imprisoned will. Our will, it's that we ourselves have imprisoned our will. It's not that that's its natural state. It's by the error of the ego we have imprisoned it. And this, as it says, could never be your will, to imprisoning it and reducing it to a specific thing, because your will, as we said a moment ago, in an abstract sense, is to encompass all creation. It shares in all creation, cannot be content with small ideas and little things. So the Holy Spirit knows all this already, and our minds are learning these things as we go along. Susie?
I just have such an amazing, it's exactly happened to me in the last 48 hours. So yesterday I went out to play golf with Susie, and I went out to play golf, focusing on the form and my will and my small ideas and plans, and I want to do well. And I was miserable afterwards. Today, on the way, I was saying to the Holy Spirit, all I want is the peace of God. And honestly, beyond all else, I just want to see differently. I just want to go out there and be with you, Holy Spirit. I don't want to hold Susie's hand. I want to hold your hand. I just, if I have the peace of God, it won't matter how I hit the ball. If I have the peace of God, none of that stuff, that idolatry will matter. And, I had a really peaceful, free, joyous kind of day. And it was fascinating, literally two completely different experiences. And that's exactly what this is. I was in idolatry and my imprisoned will yesterday. And today I was hanging out with the Holy Spirit. And it was just incredibly different. So you can't make this stuff up, but this has been experience in the last 48 hours.
Thank you for sharing that. It's really good when we can smile and laugh at it, catch ourselves doing these things. Okay, so idolatry is to attempt to place your will inside something little and specific, to take something, your holy will, which is intended to encompass everything, and to narrow it down to something some earthly idea that could never satisfy us. David?
Behind the search for every idol lies the yearning for completion. Wholeness has no form because it is unlimited. To seek a special person or a thing to add to you to make yourself complete can only mean that you believe some form is missing. And by finding this, you will achieve completion in a form you like. This is the purpose of an idol, that you will not look beyond it to the source of the belief that you are incomplete. Only if you had sin could this be so. For sin is the idea you are alone and separated off from what is whole.
Remember, sin is been redefined as a lack of love. So sin is the idea that you are separated off from love.
And thus, it would be necessary for the search for wholeness to be made beyond the boundaries of limits on yourself.
Mm-hmm. So for me, this paragraph really is vital. This speaks to me. It's framed in a way that I can understand and use as I go about my day, because the contrast between a sense of wholeness and having everything, being complete, and the opposite, searching for an idol that will make me feel better, make me feel complete, which assumes that I'm not complete. Though the contrast between those two is something I can recognize in myself. It's basically a sense of lack and needing something external to fill the lack. And that should register with everybody. You should be able to identify how that functions in you. So the purpose of an idol is so you will not look beyond it. You will become preoccupied. In fact, place your will, imprison your will in it, and not look beyond it to the source of the idea, which is that you're feeling incomplete. You're feeling a lack. You're feeling needy. And that's what we define sin as, a sense that you are lacking the love of the Creator. And once that happens, you believe that you need to go searching externally for wholeness beyond the boundaries of the limits on yourself. This is referred to in other places as a sense of a hole in the soul. It's not from Course in Miracles, but you get the sense it's an inner emptiness. and is ultimately the basis for all addictions. It can begin with an idol and then progress further to the point where it becomes obsessive and compulsive. So, see if you can tomorrow or even tonight catch yourself, and all of a sudden in those in-between moments you sense, well, what's next? And if you feel like, gosh, I'm not content, I need something else to raise the excitement here, raise the energy. Let me go get something to eat. Let me get something. That sense of it is intended that you will never look at the idea, that the belief that you're incomplete. If you can catch yourself doing that, then you can correct that error in your mind. If you don't notice it, the error will keep repeating and repeating and repeating, and you'll be unconscious that it's happening. You'll just be hijacked by the whole process, which is the normal ego state, is to be hijacked by it and unconscious, unaware of your sense of inner emptiness. Julie, you had your hand up?
Yeah, so it seems like it also might be this thing of the unknown, because because wholeness has no form because it's unlimited. It's there's so much unknown in the universal will that it really asks us to go into every moment into an unknown state, and we I feel like we fight against that.
Mhm.
Or it's a preservation kind of thing. So it's really a learning,
Mhm.
really a learning that at every moment, that that I'm okay, quote unquote. And I think that the idols are these little things that we make to keep the unknown at bay. If I have this and this and this, then I kind of know it's like everything is known quantities.
Right.
Yeah, and it makes the unknown not as scary. So that's where, I think the course is so good at helping us, helping us really embrace that idea of the unknown, because that's what we are. And when I can accept that about myself, and that's who I am, it's less scary.
Right.
And I don't have to have those definitions and those things to hold on to. I can embrace who I really am. So it's really a matter of who do I think I am.
It
And
is.
and if I think that I'm this, like you were just talking about, incomplete, if I'm lacking, if I'm incomplete, if I'm, small, then those are the things that I gravitate to. I want to, yeah. So
Yeah. No, that really characterizes it well. Thank you. All right. We'll go on, David.
It never is the idol that you want, but what you think it offers you, you want indeed, and have the right to ask for. Nor could it be possible it be denied. Your will to be complete is but God's will, and this is given you by being his. God knows not form. He cannot answer you in terms that have no meaning. And your will could not be satisfied with empty forms, made but to fill a gap that is not there. It is not this you want. Creation gives no separate person and no separate thing the power to complete the Son of God. What idol can be called upon to give the Son of God what he already has?
Mhm. I don't know if you caught this. I think this, maybe the words are subtle, but it's important. It's really not the idol that you want. What you want is to be complete, to be whole, to be joined with life itself, to be surrounded by love. That's what you really want. Talk about a hole in your soul. That's what your soul longs for, is to be whole. But we get confused and think that the idol can provide that. So there's really nothing. So this is where the correction comes in. And I'll speak first person. If I find myself wanting something else to make me feel better, what the correction is that I want to remember completion and wholeness is my natural state. It's a loss of the memory of the truth of our wholeness and our oneness, and we want to return to that. Your will is to be complete. That's also God's will, and this is given you. This is how you were created. It's a given. It's given by the Creator to all of creation, but we have forgotten that. And so the real wanting is the return of the memory of God, is the way we describe it in the Course. It's to remember again, to recognize, to know once again, to restore to the mind its awareness of wholeness. And the earthly form of the error of that is thinking it's out there somewhere in some specific form. And once you get that framework, I find it's not complicated, it's simple. I thought what I wanted was more ice cream. What I really want is the feeling of wholeness and completeness of a oneness with my being. And so I'm not knocking ice cream, by the way. I'm just saying, I think you know what I mean. We just, yeah, you guys know what I mean. Comments? So recognize the begins with the recognition of what the mind has always been doing. We've been seeking these forms incessantly our entire life, largely unconsciously. That begins with recognizing this is what the mind is doing. It's a habit. So, oh, there goes my mind thinking that some idol will satisfy me. But what I really want is to remember my completion with all creation, the joint will of the sonship. Jane?
The one thing too, I think we need to remember is that either the ego or the Holy Spirit will try to attempt to make you feel complete. Obviously, the ego's completion is never, or what you think is completion, is never going to be what you think you want it to be. Whereas the Holy Spirit's completion, which is only the peace of God and the extension of God's love through the Holy Spirit to you, will be the completion, absolute completion. And so it's tricky because sometimes you don't realize that you're seeking a completion from out there, and you feel like maybe that you got it, like, I don't know, maybe you wanted a child to graduate from high school or something, and then the child graduated from high school and you think everything's complete. Well, wrong, because it's out there. It's not within the mind of you or of the child either. So it's pretty tricky there. But once we get tricked enough, maybe we'll go back to the Holy Spirit. Thank you.
Yes. Sooner or later, we go back to the Holy Spirit. All right. Now for my favorite paragraph of this section. David.
Completion is the function of God's Son. He has no need to seek for it at all. Beyond all idols stands his holy will to be what he is. For more than whole is meaningless. If there were change in him, if he could be reduced to any form and limited to what is not in him, he would not be as God created him. What idol can he need to be himself? For can he give a part of him away? What is not whole cannot make whole. But what is really asked for cannot be denied. Your will is granted, not in any form that would content you not, but in the whole, completely lovely thought God holds of you.
Mm-hmm. So this is really about feeling content, contentment, to be satisfied with the way things are, with the way you are, with the life, with relationships. And the ego wants us to feel discontent, lacking contentment, and seeking and searching endlessly for something that will promises to bring contentment. The truth is, the transcendent truth is that completion and contentment are already part of your being. They are given. It's your function. You have no need to seek for it at all. It's already yours. So it's that simple. That which you most have been seeking for is already yours. This is why we have to remember and recognize and restore this awareness to our minds. And the thought is in the mind of the Holy Spirit, so it's only a thought away. In fact, the Holy Spirit is attempting to communicate these thoughts to you constantly. And what we have in the ego state obscure those thoughts and block them out. Once we've cleared out the conflict within the subconscious mind, then it's natural to feel it is natural to feel okay and content and whole and complete. Not in any form, but, and this is so, for me, this is powerful. The whole, completely loving thought God holds of you. It's not complex to think that the Creator has a lovely thought about you, and that thought is endless and unlimited, unbounded love. And it's the restoration of the memory of God, of that memory, of that thought, that brings about contentment. Anything less than that will never content you. No form can ever content you. And so I've put together this, because I was so inspired by all that, I put together this slide that takes from two passages from the text. One we read earlier: every living thing is a part of you as of God the Father. No idol can establish you as more than God. but you will never be content with being less. For completion is your heavenly function. You have no need to seek for it at all. Your will is granted, not in any form that would content you, but in the whole, completely lovely thought God holds of you. It's only a thought of the way. The beauty of the mind of the Holy Spirit is that she never loses sight of this truth and offers it to you like a gift from heaven. And so when you find yourself feeling like you need to seek for happiness elsewhere, realize that that state is within you right now. So in many ways, this is a course in learning to be content with the truth of what really is. Okay, we'll go on. David?
Nothing that God knows not exists, and what he knows exists forever, changelessly. For thoughts endure as long as does the mind that thought of them. And in the mind of God, there is no ending, nor a time in which his thoughts were absent or could suffer change. Thoughts are not born and cannot die. They share the attributes of their creator, nor have they a separate life apart from his. The thoughts you think are in your mind, as you are in the mind which thought of you. And so there are no separate parts in what exists within God's mind. It is forever one, eternally united and at peace.
Okay, so for those of you that find this abstract, we are talking about the thoughts inside God's mind. And it does make sense that those thoughts exist forever and are changeless. And he's not losing his mind. He's not losing any of his thoughts. So you are in the mind which thought of you. Thoughts leave not their source. We should say here in the footnotes, from the course's perspective, the only thoughts that are real are the thoughts we share with God's mind. All that other stuff that occurs with the ego is a form of a dream. It's not really thinking at all. It's dreaming illusions based on fear. And it would be helpful if you struggle with this to review workbook lesson 10. My thoughts do not mean anything. You are not thinking. Your mind is really blank, full of illusions, recognizing nothingness when you think you see it. Workbook lesson 10 was stressing this. So, real thoughts are thought by the one mind of all creation. They are shared. Your will is all encompassing of all of those thoughts. Your will stem is in perfect harmony with those thoughts, and they are all loving and whole and complete and have all of the attributes that you would expect to find in the holy, lovely thoughts of God. And so in other places in the course, it said, see, you thought you were a Homo sapien. You might have thought that what you are is a Homo sapien. In from the Holy Spirit's perspective, you are a lovely thought of God. And you will never be forgotten by the mind that thought of you. It will, and this is why we become changeless. God, when God thought of you, you came into being, and he has not and never will change his mind about you and your loveliness. David?
Thoughts seem to come and go. Yet all this means is that you are sometimes aware of them and sometimes not. An unremembered thought is born again to you when it returns to your awareness. Yet it did not die when you forgot it. It was always there, but you were unaware of it. The thought God holds of you is perfectly unchanged by your forgetting. It will always be exactly as it was before the time when you forgot, and will be just the same when you remember. And it is the same within the interval when you forgot.
Mm-hmm. So really what's happening in our ego state is there's this obstruction that seems to be between our awareness and the thought of God. And what this course is doing is help to remove those barriers, remove the blocks to the awareness of the thought of God. And it can only do that in your mind when you are wholly willing for that to occur. And once you've decided that that is your purpose, to have those barriers removed, then there's a clear program, stepwise program outlined in the workbook that will help to train your mind to be able to remember once again the thought that God has of you that has never changed. David, you had a comment?
Yeah, this reading right here, this paragraph, for some reason has opened my mind to understand heaven. Because, you know, we in the whole forgetting and the whole notion that we talk about when we talk about remembering, with that song that we hear or whatever that causes that remembrance, and the notion that the thought, because all of us can relate to thinking something, then not remembering what it was, and then remembering it, or even not remembering it. But no matter what, it hasn't changed. Our perception has changed. Our consciousness has changed of it. And this helped me to know that heaven that we talk about, the mind of God that we talk about, I just am not remembering it at this moment. But at any moment, I can remember it.
Yes.
And it's like, that's a holy instant.
Yes.
So this was really helpful to me. I just wanted to share that.
Yeah. And when you say it like that, it all seems so very simple. It was always there. It's just
Which it is.
Yeah, it is. If it's overly complex, it's probably the ego is trying to make it that way. It's really simple. The thought is always there. It's still just as beautiful as it was when you were created. The fact that you forget it doesn't change the thought, doesn't change heaven. And so really, in many ways, David, it's about when we return to that state. And the course is very clear that the sooner the better, because delaying the return to awareness only perpetuates more pain and suffering in the minds of people. And the Holy Spirit needs teachers, needs people that wake up to that simple truth that you just shared and live it in their own life, and can then share it and extend it with others who clearly would benefit if they too were to remember again who they truly are. Yeah, really beautiful. That's one of the reasons I wanted to do this section, because of those moments where it just speaks the truth so simply. Heather?
Yeah, I just really love what David just said. That was very helpful. I think that's why when we're reading this, it's so poetic and beautiful, but there's something in it that feels very familiar. You know, it feels like we know this, that we've forgotten. So it's like you read it and go, of course that's true. I know that. But it's just dawning on us again, remembering, like David just said, that, oh, yeah, we did know this. So it's not completely foreign. It feels correct and true because we once knew it.
Yes.
So that was very helpful. Thank you, David.
Yes. Listen and try to remember a song that you had long forgotten,
Mhm.
an ancient song, not fully remembered, but still there.
Mhm.
It is similar to the experience of deja vu.
Mhm.
Oh, I think I knew this before.
Mhm.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. David?
Joanna, I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Interrupt, but when you just said that, just as you were saying the words deja vu, I was saying the words deja vu over here in my mind. But is it possible that when we have that like deja vu feeling, that's kind of what this might be? Like,
Mhm.
wait, I've been there before. I know this.
Mhm.
No, what? Because I'm asking.
Yeah, I don't know that it is always, because sometimes I've driven through small towns and felt like, oh, I think I've been here before. I don't know if that's what it is, but I think there is certainly an experience on the inner plane, and you can experience it with people too, where just all of a sudden you settle into a tranquil state, and that feels familiar. And it's not even, Susie, that it's in your what I'll call your intellectual memory. It's like in your soul memory. And
Feeling.
it's a feeling, it's a note, Heather, it's a confidence and a knowing that this is right. And imagine then having that experience many times in a day, of just knowing that this is spirit guided. It says miracles are natural. When they do not occur, something has gone wrong. And miracles are just simply expressions of that inner state of knowing and of remembering. So yes, those phenomena can be indicators of this restoring the memory of God. This course ultimately is to change the mind and its orientation so that we remember again what's true, the memory of God. It's simple as that. Yeah. All right, David. I'm sorry. Before you go on, Jane, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I think that that's just what forgiveness is. because it's not of the world and it's not of people. It's changing our mind and our teacher. And that's what it is. And we don't do it. Ha ha ha. We just accept and have the willingness that it be done because it never happened to begin with. There wasn't a reason to begin with. The Course very says the world was over a long time ago. So we're just bringing back what the ego did. It turned us into brought a thought of separation in, which God never recognized. We know that, but he did send us the Holy Spirit for the correction. And that's where we remember who we truly are, is through the Holy Spirit, who is a reflection of God. And so it's just really remembering that in forgiveness given to the Holy Spirit, that's the truth. That's our whole truth right there. And we don't even have to do that either. That's what's so interesting about this course. Like David said, it's really quite easy. It's not easy, but it's simple, because we have so much stored up in the back of us through the ego's illusion of guilt and separation. And the opposite of guilt is forgiveness. And if there were an opposite, there really isn't. But that's the thing we really have to remember, is that forgiveness is the key to getting us back to our right teacher and to our right mind. Thank you.
Forgiveness is the key, for sure. Thank you. All right, we'll go on to paragraph 8 and 9.
The thoughts of God are far beyond all change and shine forever. They await not birth. They wait for welcome and remembering.
Mm.
The thought God holds of you is like a star, unchangeable in an eternal sky. So high in heaven is it set that those outside of heaven know not it is there. Yet still and white and lovely will it shine through all eternity. There was no time it was not there, no instant when its lights grew dimmer or less perfect ever was. Who knows the Father knows this light, for he is the eternal sky that holds it safe, forever lifted up and anchored sure. Its perfect purity does not depend on whether it is seen on earth or not. The sky embraces it and softly holds it in its perfect place, which is as far from earth as earth from heaven. It is not the distance nor the time that keeps this star invisible to earth. But those who seek for idols cannot know the star is there.
So poetically expressed, so beautiful. The only comment I had here is that these stars which shine forever and await not birth, they do wait for welcome and remembering. Therefore, your willingness to welcome and remember is the pivotal factor in your life and in bringing light back to your mind, and thus affecting others in the world through the influence of light in your mind. They do wait for welcome and remembering, not for birth, for they have existed. Does it say here how long they've existed? Shine through all eternity? There was no time, it was not there. So it's before time, no instant when its lights grew dimmer or less perfect ever was. They await not birth, but they do await the restoration of your mind to remember to this and become aware once again. We're just repeating what has been said before. David said this. It's simple. It's just the remembering of what was given by the Creator. David?
Beyond all idols is the thought God holds of you. Completely unaffected by the turmoil and the terror of the world, the dreams of birth and death that here are dreamed, the myriad of forms that fear can take, quite undisturbed, the thought God holds of you remains exactly as it always was. Surrounded by a stillness so complete, no sound of battle comes remotely near. It rests in certainty and perfect peace. Here is your one reality kept safe, completely unaware of all the world that worships idols and that knows not God. In perfect sureness of its changelessness and of its rest in its eternal home, the thought God holds of you has never left the mind of its creator, whom it knows, as its creator knows that it is there.
Hmm. So, some ideas from this that will appear again later is that it is undisturbed, it's surrounded by stillness, it rests in certainty and in peace. It's a point of safety. This is where you are safe, in the thought God holds of you. Everyone wishes to be safe and secure and at peace. This is only a thought away, your safety there. Meanwhile, in ego, we try to find safety by creating things in the world that would make us safe. And no matter how much it tries, they're still not safe. So it's safe, it's sure, it's changeless, it's your eternal home. And that memory being restored to your mind, even if you only get a glimpse of it for a second or two, I would pray that you would get a glimpse of that every day until the glimpses then become a little longer and a little longer. Heather?
I think I feel this when I feel the most defenseless, like defenselessness, my safety lies.
Mhm.
So when I'm feeling like that, I know that I'm in that safe and still place. So I don't have a need to defend myself or call for help or anything. It's just a place of that you know that you're safe and that it's secure. And that and you know the one who's keeping you there is keeping you safe. So I don't know, I just that's what came to me.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. So ultimately, what's being talked about here is called a universal experience. So, David, beyond all the unlearning of the ego and the learning of the Holy Spirit is the experience which is beyond words. This state talked about here is they're using words to describe it, but we know the words are not adequate. They're fingers that are pointing to a truth. It's a universal experience. In this experience, all creation can share and join in this experience. It is transcendent of the intellect or of the brain or of time and space. It transcends time and space. It never changes. It's not in motion. It's a stillness that is complete. So, yes, this is the a state of knowing, of knowingness.
I wonder, Jonathan, if this is what a baby feels in the womb. You know, this kind of state that's far away from everything that's the sounds, this, you know, all the things that would make it unsafe. Just that image came to me that we can be that safe in that. It's like we're right here in the world, but we're in this womb that completely shields this child from the whole outside world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, think of it as a metaphor, Heather, and it's a lovely metaphor. It's being nurtured by the mother. There's this closeness. It's protected. Think of it as a metaphor more than try to make a literal interpretation out of it. And yes, I think many of us like to think of that precious infant state as an idealistic nirvana, almost perfect innocence.
No, that's where our innocence is. I mean, when we're in that state, this is where our innocence is, that child part of us. It is that, yes, it's a metaphor, but that's what's is in that womb, is this child part of us that feels very defenseless and knows because it knows who its parents are. They know they're surrounded by something that's got them completely protected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Look, nice. All right. So beyond all thoughts is the thought God holds of you. Whoops. David?
Where could the thought God holds of you exist but where you are? Is your reality a thing apart from you and in a world which your reality knows nothing of? Outside you, there is no eternal sky, no changeless star, and no reality. The mind of heaven's Son in heaven is, for there the mind of Father and of Son joined in creation, which can have no end. You have not two realities, but one, nor can you be aware of more than one. An idol or the thought God holds of you is your reality. Forget not, then, that idols must keep hidden what you are, not from the mind of God, but from your own. The star shines still, the sky has never changed, but you, the Holy Son of God himself, are unaware of your reality.
Mm-hmm. So this is really about awareness. You can be aware of idols or aware of your reality. While you're not aware of your reality, it doesn't change. You don't lose it. It doesn't go away, but it's forgotten for the time being. Hidden. So this is where, especially in the first half of the textbook, those things which are hidden in the mind, the light is hidden in your mind. Idols keep hidden what you are. They don't keep it hidden from God, but they do keep it hidden from you. The stars still shine, but you are unaware of your reality. And thus, the simple truth is, this is a course in undoing your unawareness and restoring your memory of who you truly are. And that truth is already given you. That truth is part of your being. So nothing really changes. As Jane and I are fond of saying, the separation hasn't really happened. You're still, as it says here, heaven's Son in heaven is, For there the mind of the Father and of the Son joined in creation has no end. It's already there. It's, in fact, that is your only true reality. All else is an interpretation based on fear and dreams. And so, yeah, I just feel like this is really I love this section because it really focuses on this state of completion. And even if you have difficulty recognizing yourself as complete, perhaps you can accept that God has a completely loving thought of you, that was his intention in your creation, and that has not changed. And everything else is coming around, is our mind coming around to understanding and seeing it from that point of view, that we are a completely loving, lovely thought inside the mind of God. So that's why I really like this image of a galaxy, because it seems in this picture so perfectly symmetrical, so still and peaceful and complete, content, above all the noise, beyond all earthly forms. Heaven's sun in heaven is. You are a star in the eternal sky, a changeless star forever. Jane?
So one more thing. I think too, for me in my process with the course, is realizing that it really emphasizes that Jesus, we're not separate from Jesus. We're exactly the Son of God as Jesus is. And that's the thing that we have to work with, so that we go from the crucifixion thought that we have carried with us, or maybe somebody hasn't, but to the resurrection, knowing that we are too the Son of God. And otherwise, Jesus is an idol too to us. We think we have to be like Jesus. Well, guess what? We already are. We just don't remember. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Okay, well, that's as far as we're going to read tonight. I hope you got as much out of that as I did. I know it was true. It continues to be a blessing for me. We'll go on next week to section 4 next weekend. And I want to, while we have a few minutes, let's do what somebody calls Hollywood Squares, which is my question to you is, what did you get out of tonight? And everybody gets to share an answer. So let's start with you, David.
Well, I think I've already expressed before what I got out of tonight. And I don't think I could articulate it any better than I did.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, it's already there in you, brother. How about you, Susie?
Well, I mean, I continue to love to do this work on idols, because I just recognize in my fearful, unforgiving, in that part of me, how many idols I had. And it's just bringing more awareness to me. And actually gratitude
Mm.
that doesn't have to be that way at all. And that the power of decision is my own.
Mm.
And like I said, I can hold my own little hand, or I can truly, truly hold Holy Spirit's hand, and, you know, there's a different way. So I just keep getting that out of it more and more and more and more. And it's really, really helpful.
Mhm.
And where I didn't used to be able maybe to admit, because, you know, I was listening to the wrong voice, that things, like I wasn't able to admit that, oh, is that, you know, that they were idols. Now I can truly see, oh, this is an idol, or this was an idol, or Holy Spirit help me, and I can't find peace and happiness outside at all. I can only find it with the Holy Spirit and God. So that's what I continually get out of the course.
Mhm. Thank you. Thank you, Heather.
I got a lot. Personally, what really hit me tonight was how the part that talks about littleness versus grandeur,
Mhm.
and that there's a part of me that that I have as an idol about staying little. That's that littleness and not stepping into grandeur. And that comes from the, you know, Christian teaching that I had, that you had to stay small and had to stay humble and all that. So I just really am seeing what a hindrance that whole belief is, and that it really needs to go.
Good catch. All right. Thank you. Julie S.
I really liked how this kind of flowed over from the rules for decision, like that we did last time,
Mhm.
which is the introduction of this. I think it was just the one section away, right?
Right.
Yeah. So it's really kind of just bringing it home about what I what I what I what I think about, what I think of who I am, or who I think I am, is how, you know, how I make my decisions, and how I do all of those things. And I really have to be reminded that if I've made it, if I have to always check in with myself of how I'm feeling. And
Mhm.
if I'm not feeling, then I've made a decision on my own. If I'm not feeling joy or peace, or, you know, the things that come from, you know, Holy Spirit, then I've made a decision on my own. And so I think this really kind of carries over with the beyond the idol thing, because, you know, I will grasp at those idols, and then I'm on my own again, making those decisions, thinking that the things that, you know, the things that I want, the things that I think that are important, that I really have to check in and see, am I making those decisions on my own?
Yeah.
Or am I asking for Holy Spirit to help me with those decisions? And I can tell completely how I feel. I can tell completely who I've decided that's going to help me with the decision. And then the other thing I really liked out of this section is that the line about that completion is my function.
Yes.
And you know, God, you know, created us, you know, as an extension and as a completion of himself, and that is my function. And for me to look anywhere else about, like, I don't have this, or I don't have that, I'm not complete, I'm not whole, I know who's helping me with that decision. So thanks.
Thank you. Jane.
Oh my, the only words I can say is ditto to everything that has been said. I have no more. It's been beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, dear. Kathy.
It's a lot of validation because of that lucid dream I had about 3 years ago, where I felt the deja vu and I was lifted into heaven. And so it reminds me of that moment, and it kind of leaves me a little speechless, actually. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Just very happy that I experienced it. Like God gave that gift to me.
Yeah, I'm feeling that it's beyond words too, Kathy. I understand. Julie Kaplan. Don't know if you're there. All right, let's go to some other. We'll come back. Julie K.
Yes, I enjoyed the class today. I am still trying to receive God's unconditional love. No matter what I do, no matter what I think, He still loves me unconditionally. And it is simple, but it's not easy to look to Him for everything. And I find I get off track and get into the ego's realm. And now I have to get back to God and the Holy Spirit.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Julie. Thank you for that. David Welton.
There's 3 words that have stuck with me between yesterday and today's reading, and they are restoration, recognize, and advisor. And we've been focusing a lot on the moment that anytime I do not feel peace. And I love the term recognize. You recognize that I don't feel peace, and I realize the need to recog myself. And you also described it as a restoration of my right mind. I think you used another term for it yesterday that I loved, but it's at that moment. At that moment, that's when I need to turn to my advisor. And I love that expression too. To turn to my advisor in any situation I don't feel peace and ask him. First, I don't feel guilty. And then I ask him I always think of it as a reinterpretation. I ask him to reinterpret the situation. So I love those words: restoration, recognize, reinterpret. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And last call, Julie Kaplan, if you're there. Have I missed anybody else? For me, this was very powerful. I think the journey of experiencing this, so first of all, we learn through the words and the teachings, and it frames it. But the experience of that, where we have a moment that it's just all right there and it's clear. The other day I had an experience, honestly, I was walking towards my car, is what was happening right then. Thinking, I think what I was thinking is I need to go to the store and get some groceries. And I realized, well, what is it I really need? And and then my mind came, well, what I really need is to remember that the completion is my function, that we are complete, that there is a holy, lovely thought God has of us. And that was on the way, walking towards my car. And just in that moment, I can just tell you, I had a glimpse of contentment, of no need. Now, I wish I could say that it lasted for the next hour, but in truth, it was very brief. But that instant of contentment was enough to feed my soul for the rest of the day. So I really think that this is like the Holy Spirit communicating her message to us. And there are times when we let our guard down or we open and welcome that in. So that's what these classes are dedicated to, those moments where we connect and remember and get a glimpse of who we truly are. So thank you all. We'll pick up again next weekend. David, thank you for reading. Thank you all for your sharing. You are a holy, lovely thought of God. Namaste.
Namaste, everybody.
Thank you.
Love you all.
Yeah, love you too.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Right.
everyone. Have a good night.
Bye.